All right. Welcome to Sidebars. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about the positive downstream effects of increased representation in our profession. So I've spoken previously about the access to justice issue in our profession. 77% of people that need attorneys are not able to get them. Or let me correct that, aren't getting them. A lot of times they have the means to be able to afford an attorney, to be able to access an attorney. They're just not getting that representation currently. The effect of that is an enormous drain on our profession that is pervasive. It infects every part of what we do. We've all been in court and seen droves of pro se litigants, and they not only clog up the court's calendar, where you have judges dealing with unsophisticated after unsophisticated party that doesn't understand our world, and they're having to help them navigate that. So you walk into motions court, and instead of being there for 45 minutes while each attorney comes up, succinctly makes their point, you have parties walking in having no clue what they're doing, and now you're there for 3.5 hours in motions court. By the time the judge gets to your case, they are fatigued, they're frustrated, they just want their day to be over. So not only does it affect the logistics of what we're doing with our business, it affects the mindset, the mental state of the decision maker having to wade through a bunch of people that don't understand what we do in our world. And so as far as attorneys are concerned, now we have more attorneys fighting for less clients. So we could talk all day about why that dynamic exists financially, and we will in other episodes here. But for today, I just want to focus on the effect of those people not getting the help they need. And it's really important to understand for context. 50 years ago in the 70s, 99% of people that needed representation got it. There was only 1% of pro se litigants. So that's the 1970s. Not surprisingly, the model rules were adopted by the ABA in 1983, only a few years later. And that really set the stage for how we help people that can't afford representation and how we help the disadvantaged segment of our population, disadvantaged economically, socially, all of those things. So what are our solutions to the access to justice gap? Pro bono work, giving away our time, right? Court appointments, legal aid, law clinics, all of those things, when they were conceived of and when they were actually developed, they did that with a mind toward the 1% of pro se litigants that they needed to help get across the finish line. They weren't counting on 3/4 of the population being pro se. Attorneys struggling financially, fighting for the same clients, leads to a lot of misconduct in our industry. You know, we have a ethical obligation to safekeep our clients' property and to not borrow from their IOLTA accounts. And when you have attorneys that are struggling to offer representation, or more accurately, clients struggling to access representation with attorneys, solely because of financial means, you now have more attorneys than ever servicing a smaller population than ever, which is going to lead to more attorneys struggling financially, more people borrowing against their IOLTA, more people doing things that are inappropriate in our profession. So this access to justice gap directly affects everything that we do as practitioners. Why aren't more attorneys offering pro bono? For that exact reason. They have less clients, they're earning less revenue than ever, so it is incredibly difficult to give away your time to people that need it when you're not solvent. The effect of people not getting help reflects back on us and our industry in very negative ways. Imagine if you didn't spend 3.5 hours at motions court, you were in and out in 45 minutes, and now you have another 2.5 hours that you can devote to billable time. Right? That's a $750 swing just because the court is overloaded. 5 days a week, that dynamic playing out, you're talking about thousands of dollars that you're losing just because other people on cases you're not even involved in don't have representation. Let's spin this. Let's look toward the positive side of being able to actually close this access to justice gap, and why I'm so passionate about the fair practice model and finding ways to help clients where we're not discounting our rates. We're able to charge the standard market rate, but have 2 to 3 times more people access that representation. So now, if that were to occur, best case scenario, what we're talking about is the 50% of the population that are actual income earners. The middle class, they have good money. They make $5,000 to $15,000 a month. They only have $1,000 to $4,000 at any given time in their bank account. So if we can creatively find ways to give those people representation, we're now looking at 75% of the population able to acquire an attorney versus 25% that can't. Now we're moving back within those margins that all of these public programs were designed to operate in. Even 25% is likely stretching it. But what we're now talking about, if we're able to get more people help, 2 to 3 times more people help, we're talking about courts that are less taxed. Guess what else that means? Less judges. Part of the inflated pro se population means cases aren't resolving as fast as they should. If an attorney were involved, he'd be like, Mrs. Smith, this is a great deal. You should take this. You're making out here. This is very fair. Done. Instead, Mrs. Smith has no idea what's fair. She's in front of a judge crying, just saying she wants to make sure she's taken care of. And now we're in a circumstance where, again, that's multiplied millions of times over. One of the main benefits of switching this access to justice trend is financial. Attorneys are able to hire 2 to 3 times more clients. Courts don't need as much staff, don't need as many judges, they don't need quite as much funding. Attorneys in large firms, not even large firms, attorneys that have any type of staff whatsoever, all of a sudden you're making 2 to 3 times more in revenue. How much easier is it to send your associates out to handle cases pro bono for that smaller population of people that need it? You're not stressed. You have 3 times the amount of money in your IOLTA account. That's not going to be a problem, right? It's also important to remember that most of these public programs that we're talking about, most of the access to justice initiatives that help that, low income earner demographic rely on the health of our industry to fund it, right? So everyone knows you have to put your money in your IOLTA account. Why? That's an interest-bearing account. That interest goes into these public programs to help people that can't acquire representation. So if over the last 50 years, IOLTA accounts have lost 3 times the amount of revenue typically flowing through them, what's happening with those public programs? They're losing that same amount of money at the exact time the rate of pro se litigants skyrockets. So if we reverse that trend, we have 3 times the amount of revenue flowing into IOLTA accounts. We now have 3 times the amount of interest going to those programs and revenue going to those programs, while simultaneously dealing with 2/3, 50% less pro se litigants. And quick sidebar, I encourage everybody to go check out the preamble to the model rules. It is our duty and obligation to reverse this trend. So finding ways to offer fair practices and affordable practices to clients out there is going to make you more money, cost taxpayers less money, lead to much happier judges that are fully engaged and energized when you're meeting with them and giving their full attention to your case. And the most important benefit here, the most disadvantaged of us, the people least able to actually access our services, are going to get way more support to be able to resolve their legal matters in an efficient and fair way. As always, thank you so much for joining us today. Please like and subscribe. And just a little empathy exercise. Drop in the comments below. Let me know anytime you've needed help and not been able to find it. We'll see you in the next video.